This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Before I get to my guest this hour, Miss Ann Palmer, just like to remind everyone that we are going to be starting a fundraising campaign to help Sylvia's Dream. Now, Sylvia Anthony is the lady behind Sylvia's Haven. It is a home that has been used by over 1,000 ladies and their families who, for one reason or another, have become homeless or they've been victims of domestic violence. Sylvia is 84 years young. Her dream is to have a Sylvia's Haven in each and every state. And we are going to do what we can to help Sylvia fulfill her dream. Starting on Friday, we have an Indiegogo crowdfunding session that's going to start for 60 days. We want to raise $250,000. More about this, including an interview with Sylvia Anthony herself this coming Friday. My guest this hour, Ann Palmer, is the author of Anne of 1,000 Lives. And it's a personal journey through many lives of Ann Palmer, her personal stories received through channeling, regression, psychic readings that took many years to compile and form. This book gives a different perspective of past lives and should be enlightening for the reader. It's available on Amazon.com. And joining me now is Ann Palmer. And Ann, welcome to the X-Zone.
Well, thank you so much, Rod. And I have to tell you that lady that you're talking about, my television show was Ann Palmer in Beverly Hills, and my guests all had to be over the age of 50. And then I did a series called Women in the Power Years, and this was to try to get women to help women that are in their senior years. So I admire this woman for what she's doing because I was trying to do something very similar for senior women.
Yeah, God bless her. She's a firecracker. That's the only words we can use. And, you know, we love working with people who help people. And, you know, I was going over your resume and the bio that you sent us. My goodness, you've been one busy lady. You've been in major motion pictures. You've been in television. You've been a producer and a host, production, teacher, fashion model. And you've got some very unique skills. Where do you find time for life, dear lady?
What I don't find time for is making money.
Oh.
Yes, I'm traveled. You know, I lived in Europe twice. I lived in Mexico, and I do all this without money. This is interesting because getting into my senior years, and I look back at what I've done. I mean, I dated Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin.
Wow.
I've dated a lot of very famous people, and one of my books is Letters to the Dead, Things I Wish I'd Said, and it was about the famous people that I worked with in the motion picture and television business. So I look back over my life now, and I think, you know, as much as I would love to have the comforts of a good income and a lot of money, but that couldn't buy the experiences that I've had.
You know, just some of the many credits that this young lady has, Exonation. In the major motion pictures alone, Cleopatra, she was under contract with 20th Century for 6 months. Love with a Proper Stranger. Let me see. Courtship of Eddie's Father. Everybody remembers that. Goodbye, Charlie. Bonnie and Clyde. Mail Order Bride. Mars Needs Women. Challenge. The Last Party with Robert Downey Jr. Let me see. Something to Believe in. My Giant. Fear and Loathing. Chicago Hope. My goodness. And plus, you were a regular on General Hospital.
For 14 years. I was a nurse on the show.
My goodness. But I have to ask you, how did you do all this, and how do you continue to do what you do, including travel, without money?
I don't know. I live on faith. Right now, I need one of your people from your area to buy my house for 6 months out of the year. You'd be surprised how many people live in this area that are from Canada.
Really?
They come down here in October, November, and stay for 6 months. And I would just love for one of them to buy my house because I want to go back to California. I lived in the L.A. area so long. It's home to me. And anyway, that's another story.
Sure.
You mentioned my book.
All right, stand by, Ann, stand by. We've got to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Right. Exonation Ann Palmer is our very special guest. And if you'd like to get Ann's books, they're available on Amazon. All you have to do is type in Ann Palmer, and her books will pop up. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break in the news in 2 minutes as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Exonation Ann Palmer is our very special guest, www.annpalmer.net. And Ann, before we went to the commercial break, you said you wanted to sell your house because you want to move back to L.A.?
Yes.
Ah.
I'm still in the unions. I'm still in the Screen Actors Guild and ASTRA, and I probably could get some work there, and also the work that I do in the counseling area and things like that. Plus, my friends are there, so it's home to me, and
Sure.
I want to go home.
You know, it's some of the unique skills that you have. You're an ordained minister. You've conducted hundreds of weddings in Las Vegas, Palm Springs, and elsewhere. You've taught many phases of metaphysics, auras, intuitive development, past life recall, self-healing, self-empowerment, psychic, healing energy catalyst. My goodness, you've done it all. What?
You know, I want to get out of the earth life. I've done my best in my evolution of my soul and my spirituality. I never could take one particular religion. I kept reaching out to find one that fit, and it just never did. So I just made peace with the God that is within me, the Christ that is within me, and I'm flying high, and I intend to work until they put me in the whatever.
Tell me about some of the weddings that you've conducted. There must be some weddings that have, stick out in your mind when you think of the hundreds that you've performed.
Well, I did one underneath the waterfalls, and I've done several in front of a waterfall. I did one on top of a mountain, and it took 30 minutes to climb to the top, and the girl was pregnant.
Oh, gosh.
And on the way up, I said, I'm afraid I'm going to have to do a christening before we do the wedding.
And did you?
I did the wedding, but not the christening. I did a christening for another couple that I married. I married, and they married in an almost a very big formal wedding, but there was a barn in the background. It was an outdoor wedding. Most of the weddings I did. This was all in North Carolina. I moved here from North Carolina 2 years ago. Well, about 2 years later, they asked me to christen their baby, and they live on a farm, and we christened the baby in the creek.
Oh gosh!
And so I had water up to my knees in that one. So that was sort of the strange ones. And then I haven't done as many here. I had been pretty busy writing another book that will come out probably maybe in the fall. So the wedding business has kind of slipped away a little bit.
Tell me, speaking about books, tell me about your book, Anne of 1,000 Lives.
I would like to talk about that because I belong to an organization they had MSCC, they had psychologists, psychiatrists, and the books that they write are about their clients. They're not written from a personal point of view. So I wanted a book. I have done research for years on my own past lives.
Right.
And why do we do past lives? People say, well, I don't want to know about my past. I want to know about my future. And I say, you'll have a better future if you understand the things that happen in your life today, the people, the situations that are repeating in your life. They're brought forth from a past incarnation.
Yeah.
Now, you could also say it's genetic memory from your ancestors, if you don't want to say past lives. But in my case, in this book, I have ancient times from like maybe Atlantis, something like that, up through the very last life that I've lived. And I don't care to prove it. What I care about is how it relates to my life and how it has helped me. I think more than anything else, I've studied psychology. I've studied all kinds. I never stopped studying. And And past life regressions, I'm not saying everybody needs to do it, but for me, it has been more helpful than anything else. And even when I watch the History Channel and Ancient Aliens and how it relates to religion, how, that aliens have been coming, and I believe that anyway. I've always thought that our intelligence comes from somewhere else, not originally from this planet. Anyway, that's what that book is. And I'll tell you a funny thing about the cover. I'm sure you maybe saw the picture of the cover. When I was designing that cover, and the reason I use the Anne Boleyn and the Anne Boleyn costume and the name of it is because one of the lives I remember very distinctly was Anne Boleyn. So when I'm putting that cover together, and I put the 5 pictures across the top in costumes that I had worn in motion pictures or in television.
Right.
And when I looked at those pictures, I thought, oh my Lord, these fit these different lives in my book. I mean, that wasn't planned. It's just something that happened. So
basically, your book, Anne of 1,000 Lives, is your autobiography.
Of many, many lives, yes.
Why is it some people, like yourself, can recall 1,000 lives, and there are other people, including myself, who can't recall any life except the one I've lived?
You do all the time. You will have a deja vu experience, or you'll have a repetitious dream.
Mm-hmm.
Repetitious dreams, I can guarantee you, are past life memories, and it's trying to come through from the subconscious, something that you need to work on. And if you just relax and let things come, first of all, people refuse to listen to that wee small voice that is back there in your subconscious mind. And these things try to come out. You see something that's familiar to you, or you read a book and you feel it, and those are all clues, but people don't look at those as clues of a past life.
Why not?
Because they don't want to. So religion, see, back in the, 200 or 300, Constantine took reincarnation out of the Bible.
Yeah, that was at the Council of Nicaea.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So religions, in my opinion, most religions want to make you dependent on the religion, not for you to find the God within you. That's energy, that special connection that we all have, and we don't listen. But you think it's a gut level feeling for a man. It's woman's intuition. It's the same thing.
Gotcha.
Haven't you had?
Oh, many
deja
times.
Vu
well, not deja vu, but I have had that gut feeling, and being a dad, I've always been able to have the feeling when something was wrong with one of our children, or you look at the phone and it rings. So intuition, yes, but deja vu, I really can't say I have.
I bet you've seen a movie or read a book that just clicked. Something clicked that had a familiar feeling.
Yes, but I put that too, that I've read a book or I've been at a place in this life. I don't put everything into past lives. I'm a firm believer of the present, and I'm a very firm believer in reality and evidence. So when it comes to deja vu, I rationalize it maybe too much, and my over-rationalization may be taking away from the real effect.
Well, you're a man.
No, that's true. That's true.
Men live more in the left brain, and women are inclined to be more right brain than men. That's okay. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's not, it's not particular what you need in your life at this time.
Tell me about your psychic quest.
I used to be very active in doing psychic readings, and I didn't consider myself a psychic. I used to go to psychics, but a friend of mine, I used to pick up, I hate to say this, a Ouija board, but I got phenomenal messages out of a Ouija board, not silly things. I got spiritual things. And to this day, I still communicate with a group. It's a group of angels, but it's not one particular individual. You see, I believe as we move up the scale in our spiritual life, we drop the one person thing and we realize that we're a part of our soul has many different. It's like I'm trying to think of something, but it's like
it's like a congregation.
It's almost like a puzzle,
right?
And you've got the outside of that puzzle, but then you start putting these pieces in, and you realize that all these pieces make the perfect picture, and that's our soul. That's what I feel is our soul. But again, I have to do it for what seems right for me, and I'm happy to share that with others. But if it isn't right for them, it's not my place to try to force anything on them, and that's what I've objected to with religions, because when I was a kid, it's our way or the highway.
Yeah.
You've got to believe exactly what we tell you. And I'm a Taurus and with Aries rising, a bull and a ram, and I'm pretty stubborn about, trying to force things on me. But I'm glad.
So what you're trying to tell me in a very nice way is that when you were in the motion picture, you were a headache for the director.
No, not really. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I was the only actress that ever climbed around on the camera or went in the edit room and watched him edit. You see, my whole purpose in being in the motion picture industry, back when I started, there were no female producers, hardly any women except script girls and wardrobe women. And I wanted to produce good, worthwhile things. Look at what's happened in the last 30 years. Violence and more violence and more violence.
Yeah.
And now they've got all the special effects now in the violence. So I still have my dream of producing something. I created a television series that nobody looked at, but it's called The Americans, Red, White, and Black. And I did a lot of research on the Cherokees when I was in North Carolina.
All right, why don't we do this? We'll talk more about this when we come back from this commercial break with the news that we have to take. Ann Palmer is our special guest, X-Zone Nation, www.annpalmer.net. We'll be back on the other side of this news break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone radio show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone radio show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Ann Palmer's my special guest, X-Zone Nation. Her website is www.annpalmer.net. And what was your favorite role in which motion picture?
Well, to work 6 months in Rome was very exciting for me. I was a handmaiden, and it wasn't a big role that was thrilling or anything, but it was thrilling to be able to explore Rome and work with Richard Burton and Rex Harrison. I just really love those two men. I won't say anything about Liz Taylor. I will say. I worked in that picture for 6 months, and she never spoke to any of us girls on the show. Not once did she ever speak to us. And the only thing that she ever did is we were coming off the set one day, and I was dating Richard Lang, who was one of the assistant directors, and we ran into Richard Burton and his girlfriend one night, and so we went out to dinner together. So I got acquainted with Burton that evening. So one day I'm walking off of the set, behind them, Liz and Richard turned around and said, "Oh, hi, Ann, how are you?" And by calling me by name, she had me off of that movie within 2 days.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I'd been there for 6 months. It was okay. I was kind of tired of Rome by then. But I did check with the casting director, and I also checked with Richard Lang, and they both confirmed that it was her that got me off of the movie.
What was it like working with Red Skelton?
Oh, I loved him. Oh, I loved him. You know, my mother and father liked him, and I never liked him when I was a kid. And yet, working with him, he was one of the sweetest people in the. He's so sensitive. He's just as sensitive as you can possibly imagine by those characters that he played. I'm glad you remember him because, you know, at this point, I don't know that many people do.
He's one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, he was a love. I really loved him. Have you seen his artwork?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. 14 years, a staff nurse on ABC's General Hospital. Wow, what was that like?
It's just a job. Just a job. I didn't, you know, it was not a, I'll tell you, the biggest thrill I ever had in my work is we had cable, public access television.
Right.
You know, when the cable started, they had to have the channels. Well, in Hollywood area, people jumped on those, producing those shows as an audition, hoping to get something else. And I had that opportunity when they asked me to produce a show in Beverly Hills. And at first I said, I'm a professional. I'm not going to do a free show. And I ended up producing 250 television shows, hosted and produced them. 52 of them were in Mexico, and from raw stock to airtime, not another human hand touched those shows. I did the whole thing. I shot the shows. I did the interviews. I did all the editing. I put in the credits. I put in the sound effects, everything. And that was the most thrilling thing I ever did in the business.
You know, the Bold and the Beautiful, Heinz Theater, Shower of Stars, Bachelor Family, Hallmark Hall of Fame, Divorce Court, Robin Hood. You were interviewed by Sally Jesse Raphael. My goodness.
Yes, I was interviewed as an expert on reincarnation on her show.
So tell me, why do we keep coming back? Why isn't one time enough?
Oh, do you think anybody is loving enough to get out of this life? See, I had a couple of experiences and an out-of-body experiences in a UFO. You laugh or think I'm nuts. I don't care if people think I'm nuts. But what I found is the beings that I had an out of the body. I mean, I'm sitting in my bed, my physical body, but these beings were very similar to what they described with the large heads, but these had iridescent, like a white iridescent body. They radiated an unconditional love that we human beings are incapable of. And that was part of me learning that we are here on earth to learn to go through emotions, to conquer emotions, not be conquered by our emotions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, anger. I was born with a terrible temper, but I learned to mellow that out. And the first time somebody told me that when I get angry, I simply give my power over to the person that I got angry with. And that was enough right there to stop me, because I didn't want to give my power away to anybody. So I think that was a very good lesson for me personally.
But here you've written a book about the 1,000 lives that you've had. How many more lives, or how many more times do you think you're going to come back down to this planet? And
I don't want to come back to this planet. I want to get it over with this time. When I say 1,000 lives, your childhood I put as one life.
Okay.
Your adult life is another. So in this one body, you live different segments. So I'm counting those as bodies, but we don't know. I mean, this planet is millions of years old, and mankind has been on it for hundreds of thousands of years, so we don't know how many times. But one of the things that my personally experiences with past lives, I don't necessarily remember wonderful, exciting experiences. It's the traumas and the things that affect my life in this physical body, by exposing those to me, and I understand where they came from, and that has been very helpful in my evolution.
So, in your opinion, after having gone through life as many times as you have, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? Why do we keep coming back?
Well, I believe, everybody has their own opinion about what God is and what life after we leave the physical body. To me, God is what we call God is energy. Right. And to me, as we improve our soul and unite totally with our total oneness, we keep back into that oneness that we call God. That to me is our purpose, is eventually uniting with and becoming one with God.
So when we hear of people, as so many of us have been taught, that when we die we go to heaven and, it's all basically ice cream, cake, and candies for the rest of eternity. Is that
Can you buy that?
Well, I'd like to. I'd like to rather buy that than buy the alternative, which is coming back here for another 1,000 times of what I've already been through.
I think those are decisions that we make in this physical body, and when we leave this dimension. I have communicated with people from the other side when I do psychic work,
right.
Especially for friends. Now, I can't communicate with my parents or my friends that died, because I have an emotional tie with them. But if I'm doing a reading for someone who wants me to connect with their loved one, I can do that because I'm not emotionally tied. That's my experience. And what has happened when I have done that, it gives just this release for the person. It's something that it's just a closure. It's a beautiful closure, and I feel good when I can do that to help people.
Let me ask you this: if let's say I come to you and I say, Anne, I'd like to communicate with somebody on the other side. Out of all the space-time that is out there, the different universes, the different dimensions, the different realities, how do you find that one person?
Well, I talked about energy. There's magnetic energy, there's electronic energy, and now scientists have actually had to admit there's something that they call subtle energy. And that subtle energy is everywhere. It's in everything. It's in you. It's in me. It's in the line we're talking about. It's in my furniture. It's in the air. It's in the clouds. The subtle energy is everywhere.
So we're all connected.
And, yes, and we connect. If you have, say, you want to connect with your grandmother whose name was Ellie or something like that. And I just close my eyes and I ask I say, let me be a clear channel to bring through Ellie for Rod at this time. And then I just wait, and I may hear words. I may see a situation, and it's like that puzzle. It's like throwing little pieces of that puzzle together so that it makes a picture.
So do you believe that in this life that it's a script that has been written for us and that we have, destiny within our lives?
Yes, but God gave us free will. We can always change it by the choices we make.
But if we change a choice, if we make a change in our life, doesn't it also affect the lives of others who may not want these changes to take effect?
So that's kind of their choice.
But no, we're making that choice for them because of cause and effect.
Well, you got me.
Geez, now that I've got you, what the hell do I do with you? That's the question.
See, I'm alone. I'm single. I've been single for many years, and the people the closest to me are all dead.
Yeah.
So I have myself to worry about, not to worry about, to grow.
Right.
So you have a family, you have a wife and children. So I can see if you make a choice. But I think if you make a choice that affects them, that it's the right choice for them, because whatever lesson is in there for each one of them is something that's needed. I don't think you would make that choice if it wasn't the right choice.
I see.
Even though it may, you see, how have I grown the most? I've grown through all the pain I've been through, the losses that I've had, the new I have. I don't even have a name for it now. It's about the autumn of life,
right.
And it involves me traveling in Europe and being hit with a terrible, the worst kind of tragedy you can imagine. Then after that, I even have cancer, and but the whole thing is to bring through those tragedies have given me the opportunity to become a better human being and a better spiritual person. So sometimes the worst things can end up being a good thing.
I like that. That's a very good analogy. Who is the most famous person that you have ever done a psychic reading for?
I really haven't. I have done some actresses, and I don't even remember their names at this point.
Wow.
When I lived in Hollywood, when I lived in Beverly Hills, I was actively involved in doing psychic counseling, but I really don't know. And even the wedding, I did one wedding in Palm Springs, and he's David Boreanaz, or whatever his name is. I did his wedding in Palm Springs. I think he's the only famous person that I ever did a wedding for. I'll tell you, the other book, the first book that I wrote was the one is called Letters to the Dead, Things I Wish I'd Said.
Right.
And that is about the famous people that I worked with, like Red Skelton. There's a bit about him in there. And I was madly in love with Rick Jason. If you remember, he was on Combat. He was the star of Combat, the lieutenant in that. And then people on General Hospital, that I worked with. And what that book was, it's not a story that starts and goes through linear time. It's just chapters that you can open it anywhere and read about the person I'm talking about. You hear all the stuff in the media about actors. Nobody's looking for the good side. They're always looking for something that's notorious or
juicy, hot, scandalous, skanky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so what I do in that book is just to tell my personal experience with him, and like Red Skelton, telling you how much I just adored him.
All right, Ann, stand by, dear. You and I have to take our final break. Exonation. Okay. Ann Palmer's our very special guest this hour. Man, she's had one heck of a life. Career in motion pictures, television. She's been a teacher, a fashion model, several unique skills. Visit her website, www.annpalmer.net, and we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. www.annpalmer.net is the website for our guest, Ann Palmer. She's been in major motion pictures, television. She's been a producer, host. She does all types of television production. She's a teacher, a fashion model, and she also has some very unique skills, Exo Nation, including she's an ordained minister, conducted hundreds of weddings in Las Vegas, Palm Springs, and other places in the United States. And she's also very knowledgeable within the realm of psychic phenomena and metaphysics. First of all, Anne, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here in the X Zone. And I wish you much success with your books and all your endeavors. But what is left for Ann Palmer to do? What does Ann Palmer want to do next?
You know, I still have my dream of doing worthwhile television. I don't care how old I get. It's still, when I told you I studied the Cherokees, my ancestors were in the 1600s in North Carolina, and they owned slaves. And it was called, the name of it, The Americans, Red, White, and Black. And it's how three families don't understand each other, and they're like almost in war against each other. And yet they have the same basic needs: husband, wife, children. They have to eat, they have to work, so forth. But things like that. And as I told you, I have this book that will be out. But I have had an exciting life, and I've been in love many times, and I think I'm very qualified to write some romance novels. So I thought about writing a series of romance novels too. And of course, if some mature Prince Charming came along on a white horse, I would look twice at him probably.
Just a white horse, a brown horse, or a black horse wouldn't cut it, huh?
Or a white Cadillac or Lincoln. Whatever.
The three...
No, I would like to. I'd like to make my life worthwhile. That's all. I want to.
My goodness,
go
woman.
out and,
My goodness. Make your life worthwhile? You were in Cleopatra, love with a proper stranger. You've done so much. You've met so many people. You've touched so many lives. You've married hundreds of people. You've baptized people. You're a teacher. You've been in fashion, production. My heavens, you have led a life that I would say a lot of people would give their right arm for.
well, I just appreciate you. My ego. I don't believe in feeding my ego, but you've just fed it, and thank you so much. I am alone, as I told you. I live alone, and I don't really have a social life here in the Phoenix area. So to talk to someone like you, it is a joy and a privilege. And I thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show. It's
been my great pleasure. And I've got to tell you something. You're not alone anymore, because you've just made thousands of friends around the world in the X-Zone Nation.
Oh, good.
So you're never going to be alone, Ann. Never. I want to thank. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we'll have you back on, because you're such an interesting lady. You've done so much. I want to hear more about the story behind the story. The lady called Ann Palmer. So until the next time you're with us, Ann, take care of yourself. And
thank you, Rod.
It's been a great pleasure. We'll talk to you soon. Exonation Ann Palmer has been my guest this hour. Her website is www.annpalmer.net, and we'll be back on the other side of this break at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as the X-Zone continues from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 800-610-7035. Email xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back after the news. Don't go away.